6 reasons you might regret living with your adult children. You've retired. Your adult children offer you a place in their home. It feels like the right thing. More support, less isolation, fewer expenses. What could go wrong? As it turns out, quite a bit. Across the US, more and more older adults are moving in with their grown children. While the idea is full of good intentions, the reality can be far more complicated. Daily routines clash, boundaries blur, independence fades, and slowly, what once felt like a safe, loving choice can become a source of stress, frustration, and even regret. In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful reasons why some retirees end up regretting this decision and the lessons they wish they had known before making the move. Living with your adult children in retirement is a decision filled with emotion. For some, it feels like coming full circle. Your children cared for by you in their early years, and now they're offering care in return. The idea carries warmth, family closeness, and practical benefits. But in reality, the experience isn't always as smooth or fulfilling as it seems. As we grow older, our need for independence, personal space, and emotional balance doesn't disappear. In fact, it often becomes more important. When you move into a household that's already running on someone else's schedule, values, and routines, you may start to feel like a guest in your own life. Even with love and good intentions on both sides, tensions can quietly build. Many older adults in the US have shared that while they were grateful for the offer, they weren't prepared for the subtle, everyday losses that came with it. Loss of routine, privacy, decision-making power, and a sense of autonomy. And these losses don't always show up overnight. Sometimes it's weeks or months later, when small discomforts become bigger frustrations, that regret quietly sets in. This video isn't about discouraging multi-generational living, it's about giving you the full picture. If you understand the challenges up front, you can make smarter choices, set better boundaries, or even find other options that suit your lifestyle and emotional well-being better. Now let's take a closer look at the 6 most common reasons older adults say they've come to regret living with their adult children, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Reason 1: the quiet disappearance of freedom and space. At first, it doesn't feel like much. A meal a bit earlier than you prefer, sharing the TV remote, losing your favorite reading corner. But over time, these small shifts add up to something much bigger: the quiet loss of personal freedom. For many older adults, moving in with their adult children seems like a practical and loving decision. It promises support, safety, and less loneliness. But what isn't always obvious at first is how much of your day-to-day independence you might be giving up in the process. Freedom isn't just about making big life decisions, it's also about the little things. Waking up when your body tells you to, choosing what and when to eat, enjoying silence when you want it, or listening to your favorite music at your own volume. When you live in someone else's household, even with family, those choices often shift to fit the rhythm of others. Older adults like Eleanor, 72, have described it best. After moving in with her daughter, she found herself following the household routine, eating meals on a schedule she didn't choose, lowering the volume on her shows, skipping her beloved nighttime reading to avoid disturbing others. It was small stuff, she said, but I started feeling like I had to ask permission to live my own life. This kind of quiet adjustment can chip away at something deeper: your sense of control. And that control over time, space, and choice is vital to your mental and emotional well-being. Without it, even in a kind and loving environment, many older adults begin to feel like they're fading into the background of their own lives. It's easy to dismiss these feelings at first. You may tell yourself you're just being polite or flexible. But with time, if your needs are always put second, it's natural to feel diminished. Your world shrinks. The things that once made you feel whole and grounded start to vanish. The truth is, personal space and freedom are not selfish desires. They're key to staying confident, resilient, and emotionally well in your later years. Whether it's maintaining your hobbies, sticking to your routines, or simply having a room where you feel fully at peace, these are not extras. They're essentials. Before making the move to live with adult children, ask yourself a few honest questions. Will I have a private area that feels truly mine? Can I keep doing the things that bring me joy on my own time? Will I still feel like I'm in charge of my daily choices? And if you've already made the move and feel that quiet discomfort creeping in, it's okay to speak up. Setting healthy boundaries is not a sign of conflict. It's a step toward mutual respect and emotional balance for everyone in the home. Because in the end, home isn't just where you live, it's where you feel free to be fully, unapologetically yourself. Reason 2. When generations collide, the hidden cost of living too close. Families grow, evolve, and change with time, and so do the values, habits, and unspoken rules that shape daily life. What feels normal, even respectful, to one generation can feel outdated or intrusive to another. And when multiple generations live under one roof, those small differences can quietly build into bigger cracks. Tom, 75, from Ohio, moved in with his son's family after a minor health scare. At first, things seemed to work well, but as weeks passed, the differences became harder to ignore. Tom valued quiet dinners where everyone sat at the table and talked, but his grandson often stayed glued to the TV, even during meals. Tom gently asked him to turn it off, once, twice, many times. Each time, nothing changed. And when Tom insisted, his daughter-in-law would sigh, roll her eyes, or leave the room in frustration. Tom started to feel like the one disrupting the household, not contributing to it. 6 months in, he felt more like an outsider than a grandfather. This kind of experience is more common than most families expect. It's not that one generation is right and the other is wrong, it's that we were all raised in different times with different expectations. What you see as discipline, they may see as interference. What you view as good manners, they may interpret as rigidity. When you live apart, these differences are often easy to laugh off. But when you live together, day in and day out, the gap between generations becomes harder to ignore. Suddenly, it's not just about the TV volume, it's about parenting styles, household roles, lifestyle habits, and what each person expects from family. And here's the hardest part. You might hold your tongue out of love. You might let things slide for the sake of peace. But internally, that quiet frustration builds, and it's almost always mutual. That's why a little distance can be the healthiest thing for a relationship. Living under one roof doesn't always lead to more connection. In some cases, it leads to more stress, less understanding, and a deepening sense of emotional separation. Many older adults report that their relationships with their children and grandchildren actually improved after they moved out and created some breathing room. So what's the lesson here? Before choosing to live together, have the hard conversations. How will household rules be handled? What happens when discipline is needed? Will your input be welcome or seen as overstepping? And if you're already living together and feel that quiet conflict simmering below the surface, it's okay to acknowledge it. You're not failing as a parent or grandparent. You're recognizing the reality that love and compatibility are not always the same. At the end of the day, respect grows best with space. And sometimes, stepping back is the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the family you care so deeply about. Reason 3, when love turns into guilt, the silent weight of feeling like a burden. There's a special kind of pain that comes not from illness or conflict, but from a single passing comment, one that wasn't meant to hurt, but cuts deep anyway. Margaret, 69, from California, moved in with her son's family after a series of health issues made living alone too risky. She was grateful. She told herself she was lucky to have children who cared. But then, one afternoon, she overheard her son say quietly to his wife, "With Mum here, we don't have our own space anymore." He didn't mean it to be cruel. It was just a moment of honesty, spoken out of stress. But for Margaret, something shifted. She began to pull back. She stopped joining family dinners as often. She apologized for every little thing. And, perhaps most painfully, she started to feel like she no longer belonged. This feeling of being a burden is something many older adults struggle with, even when their children have welcomed them with open arms. The truth is, aging comes with its own vulnerabilities. Add to that the pressure of living in someone else's space, and even the most well-intentioned environment can start to feel heavy with guilt. Financial pressure, lack of privacy, time spent caregiving, all of these things can build stress for the younger generation. And when that stress leaks out through sighs, subtle complaints, or quick remarks, older adults pick up on it, often more sharply than anyone realizes. You start to wonder, am I in the way? Am I adding to their stress? Would they be happier without me here? These thoughts don't just hurt emotionally. They wear away at your sense of dignity and self-worth. And no one should feel like they need to shrink themselves just to keep the peace in their own family. That's why living separately isn't about distancing yourself from the people you love. It's about preserving peace of mind, mutual respect, and emotional ease for everyone involved. It's about creating a space where your presence is always a choice, not an obligation. Before moving in together, it's important to talk openly about expectations and feelings on both sides. Is this arrangement temporary or long-term? Are there clear boundaries around space and responsibilities? How will you both speak up when something feels off without guilt or defensiveness? And if you're already sharing a home and feel that uncomfortable shift inside, like you're taking up more than just space, please remember, your worth is not defined by your level of independence, but your sense of comfort and emotional safety still matter. Sometimes giving your loved ones space is also a gift to yourself. It's a way to protect your identity, your confidence, and the quiet joy of knowing you are loved, without strings, without guilt, and without ever feeling like you're too much. Because in the end, family isn't just about living together, it's about making each other feel at home. Reason 4. When your money isn't yours anymore. Losing financial independence. There's a quiet kind of dignity in being able to pay your own way, to make your own decisions, manage your own needs, and know that the life you've built is still fully yours, even in retirement. That's why, for many older adults, the loss of financial independence can feel more painful than most people realize. George, 74, from Florida, had always prided himself on being self-sufficient. He'd worked hard his whole life, carefully saved, and built a modest but steady pension. When he moved in with his adult children after a minor surgery, he thought it would be a short-term solution. A few months of support, then back to his own routine. But as time passed, lines began to blur. He started contributing to household expenses, which seemed fair at first, but soon his pension was being automatically used to cover groceries, bills, even subscriptions he didn't use. When he wanted to buy a new pair of shoes, his daughter gently suggested, "Maybe we wait until next month." Wait? For shoes? That was the moment George realized something had changed. It wasn't about the money, it was about control, about dignity. And that's the heart of the issue. When financial decisions start shifting out of your hands, intentionally or not, it's easy to feel like you've lost something bigger than just dollars. You lose agency. You lose the quiet power of choice. Even in loving families, this shift can happen gradually and without anyone meaning harm. But the impact is real. Older adults often report feeling like they have to ask before making purchases. Some begin hiding small expenses or quietly avoiding spending altogether just to prevent tension. Over time, this can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and a diminished sense of worth. It's important to understand financial autonomy is more than a practical matter. It's emotional. It's tied to self-respect, freedom, and identity. When you can no longer decide how to use your own money, you risk feeling like a passenger in your own life. So what can be done? Before moving in with family, have honest, specific conversations. Will expenses be shared or kept separate? How will your pension or income be managed? Will you retain access and control over your own financial accounts? If you're already in a shared household and noticing this shift, don't be afraid to revisit the topic. Setting boundaries around money isn't selfish, it's healthy. It protects your ability to feel independent even in a shared space. And if you're the adult child in this dynamic, keep in mind, financial control doesn't always feel like help. Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is help your parent hold on to their autonomy, not take it over. Because in the end, retirement isn't about giving up control, it's about continuing to live with purpose, clarity, and dignity. And that includes the freedom to decide how you spend what you've earned. Reason 5. When love meets silence, no voice in raising the grandkids. For many older adults, grandchildren are more than just family. They're a second chance at love, guidance, and purpose. That's why it can be heartbreaking to live under the same roof and still feel left out. Susan, 70 from Oregon, had always dreamed of spending more time with her grandkids. So when the opportunity came to move in with her son's family, she was thrilled. She imagined baking together, helping with homework, and passing on the values she held dear. But reality felt different. Whenever she suggested less screen time or encouraged the kids to say please and thank you, her son would gently but firmly push back. "Mum, we don't do that anymore." At first, she brushed it off, but as it continued, Susan began to feel invisible in the very space where she hoped to make the most impact. The truth is, generational gaps in parenting can run deep. What once felt like common sense, manners, boundaries, discipline, can now seem old-fashioned or even judgy to younger parents. And when you live in their home, it becomes even harder to speak up without feeling like you're crossing a line. For grandparents like Susan, this creates an emotional conflict. You want to help, you want to guide, you want to protect, but when your input is dismissed or politely rejected, it hurts. It can feel like being asked to sit on the sidelines of a game you deeply care about. This isn't about control, it's about connection. And when your role in the family dynamic becomes limited, especially in front of the grandchildren you adore, it's easy to feel like your presence doesn't matter. But here's the key lesson. Being close to your grandkids doesn't have to mean living in the same house. In fact, many older adults have discovered that being the visiting grandma or Sunday grandpa often leads to more meaningful time together. When you're not in the daily grind, your interactions can become special, focused, joyful, and free of tension. You're not the one enforcing rules, you're the one creating memories. And that emotional space can actually allow you to have more influence, not less. So before choosing to live with your children and grandchildren, ask yourself, will I have a voice in how the children are raised, or will I need to step back? Am I prepared to accept their parenting style, even if I disagree? Would I rather create stronger bonds through visits, calls, and planned time together? And if you're already living with family and feeling this kind of exclusion, know that you're not alone. Your instincts, your wisdom, your heart still matter. But maybe the setting just needs to shift. because sometimes the best way to support the next generation is from just far enough away to be heard. Reason 6. When saving money costs. You piece the myth of cheaper living. On paper, it makes perfect sense. 2 generations under one roof, sharing space, splitting costs, no rent, fewer bills, more support. It sounds like a smart financial move until real life steps in. Jim, 73, from Texas, made the move after his apartment rent nearly doubled. His daughter welcomed him in with open arms, and for the first few months, everything felt manageable. But as time went on, the true costs of co-living began to surface. The utility bills went up, grocery runs became more frequent and more expensive. His health needs required extra medications, doctor visits, and home adjustments. Then came the unspoken costs, the tension of a crowded home, the feeling of walking on eggshells, the guilt of being one more thing the family had to plan around. By the end of the first year, Jim wasn't just spending more than he'd expected, he was emotionally drained, and the entire household felt the pressure. This is a side of multi-generational living most people don't talk about. Just because you're saving on rent doesn't mean you're saving overall. Sometimes the hidden costs, financial, emotional, relational, can outweigh the benefits. Shared living comes with shared stress. Meal planning, household chores, privacy management, healthcare routines, it all requires more coordination, more compromise, and often more money. Even when everyone has the best intentions, the reality is that daily life becomes more complex. And when those complexities aren't discussed openly, they build quietly into resentment, fatigue, or a sense of failure. You may start to wonder, wasn't this supposed to make things easier? That's why true financial peace isn't just about reducing expenses, it's about feeling at ease with the life you're living. Before assuming that living with adult children will be the more affordable route, ask, will our combined living actually reduce overall costs or just shift them? Are we financially prepared for medical needs, unexpected expenses, or support services? Have we talked honestly about how money will be shared, spent, or saved? And if you're already living together and noticing that money is becoming a source of stress, acknowledge it. These aren't failures, they're signals that something needs to be recalibrated. In some cases, older adults find that modest senior apartments, shared housing with peers, or even downsizing to a smaller independent space gives them more financial and emotional freedom. And more importantly, it often preserves family harmony, because peace of mind isn't something you can budget for, but you'll know when it's missing. In the end, the best financial decision isn't just about saving dollars, it's about saving relationships, dignity, and your sense of self. Living with your adult children during retirement may sound like the perfect way to stay close. And in some families, it truly works, bringing warmth, shared memories, and support. But for many older adults, that closeness can come at the cost of something deeply personal: freedom, peace, and the quiet space to be yourself. Throughout this video, we've explored 6 real reasons why living together, while well-intentioned, often leads to tension, regret, or emotional strain. From the loss of privacy and financial control to feeling like a burden or being left out of grandparenting roles, these are not just surface-level concerns. They go to the heart of what makes retirement feel fulfilling. That's why so many older adults in the US, after giving it an honest try, have made the choice to return to independent living. Smaller homes, simpler spaces, but a deeper sense of ease, dignity, and self-direction. Because in the end, true happiness in retirement isn't about who you live with. It's about how well your living situation fits the life you truly want. A life where your voice matters, your routines are respected, and your home still feels like it belongs to you. Now we'd love to hear from you. Have you lived with your adult children or thought about it? What worked? What didn't? Share your thoughts or story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else make a better decision for their own future. Thank you for being here. And remember, it's never too late to choose what brings you peace. If you find this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to update new related knowledge